The Chicago Cubs get back on track, taking 2 out of 3 from the Pittsburgh Pirates in the Steel City, and in the process, destroying Paul's schemes. I know LaKeena is very happy about that. On the south side, the White Sox avoided a sweep by shutting out the Milwaukee Brewers 8-0, as they'll get to take on the Houston Astros in the weekend series from the south side. Reflections of 2005, anybody? We'll give you our thoughts on that series coming up. In basketball, LeBron James and Luka Doncic are headed for summer vacation, along with the Detroit Pistons, after losing last night to the New York Knicks in Motown. We'll have our recap of this 2025 Stanley Cup playoffs as the first round nears its close, and we'll have Christine the Queen Manika rejoin our program and a whole lot more. As the Friday Funk edition of Second City Sports starts right now. Welcome to this fun Friday edition of Second City Sports, the first one for the month of May. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss LaKeena McGee, which is she. I am Sidney, bro. You better know right now it's me. You can follow yours surely on the Twitter, X, and the IG at CK80. Once again, it's CK80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow McKenna McGee on the Twitter, executes again, IG.
Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app rather ready to get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms such as Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media. PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are on a podcast, Jaggly Fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinion, do our 2-hour extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show, you definitely want to hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you. But you decide to troll or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I've given LaKeena full powers to give you Dumbos to Bill and Beer Boot.
Toodles.
But before we begin, shout out to the replay gang that's checking us out on the replay at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube pages. But much love to our live gang that's checking us out right now, LIVE in living color, also on our Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube pages. Don't you ever forget our motto, where we talk sports, music, or entertainment, and more, minus politics. We will provide.
And we remind you with some of the best around Second City Sports here in the second day. In May, of course, we got our buddy Scott Lewis from the co-founder of the Barber Company podcast. He'll help us recap one more time the Bears NFL draft and also a little basketball as well. Of course, our girl Christine Manika of KXRB will join us to share her thoughts on sports media news, the whole stuff going on with Bill Belichick, and so much more. We'll talk some Stanley Cup and the NBA playoffs, where we'll have one Game 7 in both those playoffs coming up this weekend. We'll tell you about that and so much more. LeBron and Luka get eliminated. Coach Pop announces his retirement and so much more. But first, let's talk some baseball as the Cubs get 2 out of 3 from the Pirates. And one of the games yesterday in the rubber match, they actually shot 3 home runs in one inning off of Paul Skeens, which the first time in his short career that's happened. They beat them 8-3. I'm talking about the Cubs did. Winning 2 out of 3, they go 19-13. I have to say, I was very surprised that they were able to hit against it, because I remember the last season, his first season, a couple of times they played them, they didn't really do well against him, but they got homers from, Swanson, Tucker, 2 from Seiya, and the pitching was actually really solid for the most part in the series. But yeah, as they gear up as they gear up to continuing in their NL Central. They face Milwaukee starting tonight, and we'll get to that in a second. But Sid, what do you think about that Cubs series against the Pirates?
Before we begin, we'd like to send our well wishes out to that fan that fell from 21's stories on Wednesday night. As the latest that we have, that fan is still in critical condition. So
Yeah.
we would like to send our well wishes out from all of us here at Sports on Chicago and Second City Sports. That was a ugly tragedy on Wednesday night. So hopefully that fan will recover and recover fully in due time. But back to what happened yesterday. Say ya. Shout out Outcast. But Seiya Suzuki had his fifth career multi-home run game yesterday. As we talked about before the season started, this was a perfect spot for him being the DH as Kyle Tucker takes over his spot in right field. And Seiya can concentrate on hitting, and that's what he's been doing all year. And for the most part, he's been healthy. Now, on the flip side, Dansby Swanson's still batting under 200, but his bat's been coming alive over the past couple of weeks. Michael Busch had a couple of big hits in that series as well. So, and the Cubs, let's not forget that shut out the Pirates 9-0 on Tuesday to secure that first win of the series. I think he showed up pitched in that opener. I know his numbers didn't look great, but when you have that offense behind you, your numbers starting wise will not look that bad. I know the bullpen has not been used that much in this series, but that's what happens when we have a great offense. As I said before, LaKeena, before the season started, the offense has the potential to do much damage. They have done it so far this season, despite still problems with the bullpen and despite the problems trying to find a consistent third baseman. But outside those two areas of concern, the Cubs just keep on marching. And as you mentioned, this weekend, they'll get their true test of the season, facing your division now. First up, a 3-game road series at Milwaukee.
Yeah, it's definitely I think that Wednesday game was a little bit to be desired for that. But again, they were able to bounce back. They were right there. They probably could have swept the Pirates, but unfortunately
Mm-hmm.
McCutcheon after what happened to that fan, I think last I checked he was still in ICU. So hopefully hopefully we'll get some updates about him this weekend. But that whole after that. But I know McCutcheon, because it happened like right before he actually hit that go ahead uh, uh, RBI against the Cubs in that second game on Wednesday. But overall, the Cubs actually had a really solid series. That's all you can ask for. They hit
Mm-hmm.
schemes, which I like I said, he had his number in his rookie year last year, so the Cubs were able to kind of bounce back from that. Didn't have to use the bullpen too much this series, which again you'll take it if you're the Cubs. But you're facing a Brewers team that's been kind of up and down. I know they didn't have a good week this week, so. But if you can just win 2 out of 3. I think that's the key. If you're the Cubs, you want to just win your series. Sweeps would be nice, but just win 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4, what have you, and then just get going as you're chugging along through playing your division.
Yeah, your pitching matchups for this Cubs Brewers series from Miller Park. Yeah, I'm calling it Miller Park. I'm not calling it that ugly corporate name. Your pitching matchup for tonight in the series opener: Ben Brown goes for the Cubs versus Quinn Priester for the Milwaukee Brewers. Tomorrow, Saturday, Jameson Taillon versus Jose Quintana, one-time former Cub from 2017. And of course, in the series finale on Sunday afternoon, you will have Shota Imanaga versus Freddie Peralta. So the Saturday and Sunday games on paper are great pitching matchups, but
Mm-hmm.
as you mentioned, Lakina, the offense, in my opinion, I think it's going to come down to earth a little bit. But can you do the little things? As steal bases, manufacture runs, sacrifice bunt, hit and run. And I think that those fundamentals are going to be key for the Cubs in this series. Yes, Milwaukee. I know they failed to sweep the White Sox here in Chicago. We'll get to that in a second, but
Mm-hmm.
they still do the little things right. The fundamentals, they do it right, and that's going to be on display this weekend because, as we always say, especially come playoff time, great pitching beats great hitting, and the Cubs will get a true test starting tonight.
Now, speaking of the Brewers, of course, they did lose to the White Sox, 8-0. People from sweet, but again, the White Sox. I mean, I guess you'll take that. Here's the interesting thing about the White Sox. Whenever they actually win games, which I know this is a shout out to MLB, whoever runs that Twitter X account from them, because this is probably I don't want to say this is funny, but this is actually unintentionally funny. They've won by 7+ runs 5 times this year. That's tied for most in the league. So it's kind of funny but sad at the same time, which is hilarious. But the White Sox do face the Astros starting tonight, so that's going to be an interesting series for them. But I mean, look, the young guys have been playing well for the White Sox, so I guess that's all you can ask for at this point. But it's just like, reading that stat, like like 7 of their 5 of their 8 wins have come as 7+ runs, so go figure with that one.
Discussing that Brewers series quickly, you could have won at least 2 out of 3 of those games. Shane Smith, the rookie starting pitching sensation, he didn't have his best, but he kept the White Sox in the game. But he had 3 bad errors, 2 on Workman, the new third baseman for the moment for Chicago, and of course Cam Boozer, one of the few players that I like going to see, the left-handed 30-year-old rookie out of the bullpen. He made a bad play on Wednesday night, in which led the Brewers take the lead and go on to win the game and clinch the series for Milwaukee. But the White Sox have been involved in more one-run games this time, more this year than they have last year at this time. So, Will Venable, I know he's teaching on the job, and that's what he partially signed up for. But I will say these players, even though they're young, they give a damn about what's going on the field, unlike around this time last year. I know Chase Mydroth, the rookie second baseman / shortstop, he returned the other day. You can see his impact. Luis Robert Jr. had his best game all around as a White Sox yesterday. Rob stealing a home run away from the Milwaukee Brewers, i.e. a potential grand slam. He also had an RBI double yesterday. So all around a good win for the White Sox. So shout out another Schomburg. He didn't look that great in his last start, but he bounced back yesterday with a solid performance. His best, in my opinion, since that opening day win against the Anaheim Angels. So the White Sox, they're still learning as we expected, but I don't think things are as bad as they say. I'm not telling you blue sky and blue bleep, but just looking, we know the record's bad, but looking deep into it, it's not as bad as you think. Now, Andrew Vaughn, as we said on our show on Monday, he needs to go. Tim Elko, he needs to be called up right now from Charlotte, and we'll see what happens from now. Before we go to break, LaKeena, I did have some other stats for you regarding the White Sox. This is before yesterday's game against Milwaukee, which they won. This time last year, if I could get it here quickly, in March and April, this time last year, the White Sox were 6-24 with a -79 run differential and a 189 batting average with runners in scoring position. Before yesterday's game, fast forward to this year's White Sox were 7-23, now 8-23, with a -32 run differential and a 182 batting average with runners in scoring position. I know, reading those numbers, Sid, things haven't changed that much. Now they have 2 more wins than last year's team. Yes, it's true. Improvement does happen, but you gotta have baby steps. Baby steps.
So they're not so bad 8-23. Is that what you're trying to say, Sid? With the White
at least according to the numbers. I'm just reading facts here, folks.
Framber Valdez versus Jonathan Cannon tonight in the first game of that Houston White Sox series. You got Hunter Brown and Davis Martin on Saturday. And on Sunday, the rubber match, you got Lance McCullers Jr. versus Bryce Wilson. So, they could win 2 out of 3. I said they could. So, I don't know about Sunday, but but we'll see. So,
yeah, I know. That's why I said, ugh.
Yeah, so we'll see. But yeah, we're going to take a really quick break. Of course, we'll talk about the rest of the week in MLB. We'll go through the NBA and Stanley Cup playoffs as LeBron and Luka get eliminated. Coach Pop announces his retirement. Sully, on the NHL side, Sully goes to a rival, the Eastern Conference rival, and so much more coming up next. LaKeena McGee, City Brown, Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago. Baseball and playoff talk coming up right after this.
Playoffs?
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to the Friday Fun edition of Second City Sports, the first show for the month of May. You're locked and loaded in real live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's LaKeena. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80, that's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
Avon McGee on the Twitter, executing an IG.
As we continue our baseball talk, as we'll also dive into some NBA and Stanley Cup playoff talk as well. You can definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get them up on the screen for you.
All right, let's get right to it, Sid. We'll start with MLB again, continuing that talk. The Dodgers are now back in first place in the National League West as they sweep the Marlins this week, and including games of 15-2 and 12-7. So their offense definitely came out, and the guys are starting to get healthy a little bit. The pitching's been they're kind of similar to the Cubs in some ways because their pitching hasn't been very good. But you take care of business against the Marlins, you'll take it. You'll take it if you're a Dodgers fan.
Well, winning cures everything, huh? That's what I say. Shohei Ohtani hit a couple of dingers in that series. Tommy Edman, last year's NLCS series MVP against the Mets. He's starting to show up again, starting center fielder with that bat, the utility player that he is. Andy Pages, who's playing center field at the moment, he's starting to show up not only with the glove but with the bat. And of course, Teoscar Hernandez, Mr. Everything, he's starting to swing the stick as well. The Dodgers have more pitching injury issues than the Cubs, but Well, as long as you had the offense and you playing against a team like the Marlins, even though they're not as bad as we thought either, you're supposed to do this. So shout out to the Dodgers for taking care of business. A couple of other series to talk about from early in the week. The Oakland Athletics, they take 2 or 3 from the Texas Rangers. The Rangers are going through a funk right now. They can't score any runs. They got swept by the San Francisco Giants on the road over the weekend. And, of course, now their offensive woes continues against the Oakland Athletics. They got shut out yesterday 3-0. Cleveland takes care of the Minnesota Twins as expected. Cincinnati takes care, excuse my bad English. They take care of the St. Louis Cardinals. As I told you, I had Cincinnati in the playoffs this year. Terry Francona, their new manager, is making a big difference right now. And shout out to the Arizona Diamondbacks. They take 2 out of 3 in Queens against the New York Mets. If you're a Mets fan, are you worried, or this is just just a long season of going through the process?
Well, don't tell Mets fans that apparently, because they're about to jump in the jump in the Hudson River. But yeah, I mean, look, the Diamondbacks, look, they play very well. So I'm not too crazy. I'm not too worried. Don't go too crazy about them about that. Say the division, the Phillies took care of business. They lost the rubber match. They didn't sweep the Nationals, but they did win the series. So we'll see what happens with the Phillies. That's why they were like gain a game on the Mets, so they were 3.5 back there. The Padres, don't tell everybody Herb Lawrence is, but the Padres, of course, they've had an up and down week. They did sweep the little mini 2-gamer against the Giants, but they did get swept by the Rays. So that's why the Dodgers are back on top in the National League West. Now, Aaron Judge. Now, checked out these numbers for May. No AL player had ever collected 50 hits in the season before May. Neither had an AL player reach bases 70 times, either whether the hit by a pitch, walk, what have you, before May. Nor amassed 85 stolen bases before the month of May. Well, Aaron Judge did that this month, so and that's why the Yankees, the Yankees are still in it, so they're right there at the top of the AL East right now. But again, look, as long as he's healthy, I think. I know they lost 2 out of 3 to Baltimore. I think Baltimore needed that series more than the Yankees did.
Mm-hmm.
I know Chad Chisholm, strained his oblique during that series. He's now on the IL, but I think you're okay if you're the Yankees. I think Baltimore needed to miss that series more than they did. So not really freaking out if you're the Yankees just yet. Toronto, they got back on track this week. I know they had a rough weekend. They did win 2 out of 3 against Boston, so that definitely helps get them stay in that race in the AL East. I know they got Vlad Jr. got the go ahead 2-run home run because it was tied then to win that series, but. Look, I think the AL is still going to be very competitive.
Yeah, and like we talked about with the Baltimore Orioles in our last couple of shows, I did watch a couple of games from that series. Their starting pitching is still going to be a problem unless they get a starter. Soon they'll be in contention between now and July 31st. If they don't get a frontline starter, it's going to be problems for them. I'm more of a believer in Toronto than I am in Baltimore. That's right now, even though we're barely a month into the season. I want to go to the AL West now. Your Seattle Mariners had a quick 2-game sweep of the LA Angels of Anaheim. The Angels are now 5 games below 500, and Mike Trout, unfortunately, is going for the first time this year back to the IL. It looks like it's not going to be that long, so hopefully he comes back strong. I know the Angels did get off to a decent start this year, but they ran into the buzzsaw in your Seattle Mariners, LaKeena. They scored 9 runs on Wednesday, and I know they scored a bunch more over the few games over the last week. Are you a believer in this Seattle's Mariners offense, or are you still in wait and see mode?
Yeah, they won 2 out of 3 against the Marlins prior to that, including 14-0 in that game on Tuesday. But yeah, I want to wait and see. I know they this happened last year. They picked a little too early, and then we know they fell off. But look, Crawford's been playing very well. Alzarena has been very solid too. Of course, Julio Rodriguez has been right there as well. So yeah, I think and Polanco too. So yeah, I'm gonna wait and see more because, like I said, they peaked too early last year. So we'll see what happens with that. Now going to the AL Central real quick. Detroit had a nice, had a pretty good week this week. I know Cleveland as well. So did the Royals, who they've won 3 in a row. So yeah, it looks like look, it'll be interesting to see what that's. I think it's going to be between Cleveland and Detroit. Could KC have something to say about that? Maybe, but I'm still not a believer in KC just yet. I would say, look, we're into that month where ask me by the end of this month, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, usually by Memorial Day, you have a sense of what these teams are going to be like. And with this AL Central, I still say it's going to be the team that wins the division is the team that's going to represent this AL Central division in the playoffs. I know Cleveland is making a charge, and Kansas City, after struggling there to start the year, they're over 500 now. We'll see what happens when they play the better teams once again. But Detroit, even though they do not have much power in Atlanta, as I told you in our last show, they took, as you mentioned, they took care of business against Houston. I know they won their first game on their West Coast road trip last night at Anaheim against the Mike Troutless Angels. Check this out. Did you see that catch by Javi Baez last night?
Mm-hmm.
Now he's playing center field.
Yeah, I know, right? So,
figure.
Yeah, he's gonna. I think he got some injuries out there, so that's probably why they put him out there. But he's gonna be out there for a little bit. But yeah, he did play. He played outfield a little bit when he was with the Cubs. So it's sort of like it's been a while. But yeah, that was a monster catch by Javi last night. And look, they got there. Look, hopefully they can take care of business. With Trout being out, hopefully they can take advantage and win the rest of the weekend series there.
All right, your weekend series matchups for Major League Baseball looks like this. The Washington Nationals will continue their road trip. They'll face Cincinnati. San Diego will visit Pittsburgh. The first game of that series will be on Apple TV Plus tonight at 5:40 p.m. That's Dylan Cease versus Mitch Keller. I think our guy Russell Dorsey will be doing the sidelines for that game. I got to check up on that. Arizona versus Philadelphia. Kansas City will go to Baltimore. Tampa Bay will travel to New York to take on the Yankees. Cleveland will visit Toronto north of the border. The Minnesota Twins will visit Boston. Minnesota's in trouble this weekend, in my opinion. The Oakland Athletics of Sacramento, which we would call them on this show, they'll continue their road trip. They'll visit Miami to take on the Marlins. The Dodgers will take on Atlanta. Houston, of course, will face Chicago on the south side. LaKeena Seattle Mariners will take on Texas at Globe Life Park. LaKeena's other team, the Cubs in Milwaukee. That first game tonight will be on Apple TV Plus at 7 o'clock. So note, all you folks out there want to catch the first game of that Cubs Brewers series, you'll have to get Apple TV Plus. Or if you have the MLB TV subscription like I do, you have to wait till 2 hours after the game is completed to watch it via the replay. The rest of the weekend schedule looks like this. The Mets will take on the St. Louis Cardinals. Detroit will continue their 4-game weekender in Los Angeles against the Angels. And the Colorado Rockies, who did pick up their 5th victory of the year last night, they'll continue their 4-game weekend series. They'll face the San Francisco Giants.
Yeah, that first game will be on MLB Network. So will the Dodgers and Braves. That'll be on MLB Network as well as 6:15. And, of course, the Rays, Yankees, that game will be on MLB Network. More national games. You got the Rays and the Yankees. That'll be on MLB Network tomorrow. And also tomorrow, the FS1 game of the week, you'll have Minnesota and the Red Sox. The Fox Saturday game of the week, you got Kansas City and Baltimore. I'm assuming, I guess most of us here in the Midwest will get that game, and most of the nation will get the Dodgers and the Braves, the second game of that series. And of course, you got Detroit and the Angels. That game will be on MLB Network tomorrow. Kansas City and Baltimore, the rematch of that series will be on MLB Network Sunday. So will Minnesota and Boston. So kind of a regional thing there. And the ESPN Sunday night game of the week will feature the Dodgers and the Braves. We'll be interested to see how that series goes. Is going to be fun there. And that's your schedule for this week in MLB.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. LaKeena and Sid rocking out here with you on this Friday, the first Friday fun show for the month of May. As we now transition over to the NBA playoffs, we'll get more deep into the playoff matchups and preview the second round with our guy, Scott Lewis from the Barber's Chair Network, coming up in our next segment to kick off hour number 2. But LaKeena, we had 2 games last night. The New York Knicks, courtesy of Jalen Brunson's go-ahead 3-point shot with 4 seconds to go, they eliminated the Detroit Pistons in 6 games, defeating the Pistons 116 to 113 in Little Caesars Arena. While the LA Clippers, behind Kawhi Leonard and James Harden, they told Denver, we're traveling back with you to Colorado. We'll see you Game 7 tomorrow night from the stadium formerly known as the Pepsi Center. So we had 1 closeout last night and 1 playoff series, at least as of right now, this live broadcast, going to the 7th and final game.
Yeah, going to that first one. Detroit was up 10 with about 3 minutes left. Of course, this has been a microcosm of the series. They were up big and then they ended up, just sticking it up. So of course, a 3-pointer, the go-ahead 3-pointer from Jalen Brunson with about 4 seconds left. They had their shot to perhaps maybe try to tie it. It didn't happen. So now they're going home and talk about Detroit is. But look, the Detroit, they lost a couple of their top scorers and they got, they pushed the Knicks. But you're probably kicking yourself if you're a Pistons fan. So they should have won that game last night. No ifs, ands, or buts. They probably should have won the series. But again, that's neither here nor there at this point. But going into the Denver Clippers, Harden had 28 points. Definitely his best game so far in the series. And unfortunately, the Nuggets couldn't close it out. Only 5 points from Michael Porter Jr. Jokic had not his best game. I know 25 is not a bad game by his standards, but it is kind of by his standards. And Murray had 21, unfortunately. But it wasn't just Harden and Kawhi for the Clippers. It was some of their utility guys as well. So that's why we're getting to Game 7 tomorrow night.
Now, let's not forget about Nicholas Batum, who was interviewed last night after the game on the national broadcast. He had a couple of big shots in that game. He had a huge block toward the end of that game on Russell Westbrook, which was nice. And, of course, you had Norman Powell, who was, in my opinion, a borderline all-star this year. Has had a great year. He came up big last night. He had a bunch of big baskets in there as well. I don't know about you, LaKeena, but Ivan Zubac, yes, he was a one-time former Laker. The first year LeBron James was with the Lakers back in the 2018-2019 season. He was traded to the Clippers later on that year. He's been a problem for Jokic in this series, not only defensively, but offensively as well. You don't look for him to score points in the paint, even though he improved his game a little bit offensively throughout the years, but he's been a problem from Jokic on both ends of the floor in this series.
Yeah, he's been able to tame Jokic for the most part, and you got to give Zubac all the credit in the world, and very smart of Ty Lue to have him guard him. So we'll see what happens tomorrow night. So this is going to be very interesting because, we'll get to that in a second with the start time. But yeah, Zubac's been really kind of been like the unsung hero of this series. Like he's done his job, so hopefully he can do it one more time. He'll have to do it one more time tomorrow night. But let's go to Wednesday's series real quick as Houston, told Golden State not so fast, not just yet. Fred VanVleet had 26 points in that game on Wednesday to force a Game 6 in that series. That will be tonight. And Minnesota beats LeBron, Luka, and the Lakers 103-96. Rudy Gobert
Lakers survive. Never mind.
27 and 25 points for Rudy Gobert. Look, I had the Lakers in 6, so I can't talk. But
so do I. So did I.
So we can't talk, unfortunately. But it's just one of those things where, I mean, unfortunately, not having a supporting cast, and plus I know people don't want to make the excuse, but LeBron's 40, folks. So it'll be interesting to see if he decided that next season is gonna be his last season. Luka's got to bulk up. He has to. He can't with the stuff, the injuries and being exhausted and running out of gas. But the Lakers are gonna need somebody to help them because Austin Reeves, he didn't show up in that Game 5. No one else did either. So Jackson Hayes, where the hell were you, dude? I mean, Gobert
on the bench. That's where he was.
Gobert looked like Kevin Garnett there his during his early years with the T-Wolves. So it was just not a good series by the Lakers at all.
Yeah, and when the dust settles and the smoke clears, you should not be surprised at the way that Minnesota handled the Lakers. Coming into the series, we both talked about could the Minnesota Timberwolves supporting cast step up. The answer was yes. Julius Randle stepped up the last 2 games, including the clincher the other night in Game 5. Jaden McDaniels, supporting cast, he did well in this series. Let's not forget about Nazi Reed, who we talked about on our show, our last show on Monday. He did a heck of a job in this series. And Anthony Edwards, I believe, outside of Game 3, we had that 43-point outburst. You really didn't have to get much from him. I'm talking about with that dominating performance because his supporting cast stepped up. You talk about Rudy Gobert, he gets most of his points on putbacks. We all knew that he was going to be strong defensively, but the way that the Lakers' lack of size was a problem in the series, Rudy Gobert was able to take advantage of it. There was no more evident than what he did in Game 5 on Wednesday.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens when, as they await the winner of Golden State and Houston. But they get to chill for a little bit. Well, also to Indiana, thanks to Halliburton. After Gary Trent had his career playoff high 33 points, unfortunately they ran out of gas. The Bucks did, and the Pacers were able to come back and win, leaving Tyrese's father out of there, going out with Giannis. That was not very smart, really do. But
Yeah. Shout out to the Pacers organization. He's not allowed in the building for the foreseeable future.
Probably a smart decision
Exactly.
on their part, because the way the Pacers were celebrating, they're like they just wait, did they go to the NBA Finals and we didn't notice it, like the way they were celebrating. But I know they're division rivals, but come on now, but whatever. But and of course Boston, they took care of business against Orlando. I guess Jason Tatum's doing okay. He had 35 points in that clincher against the Magic on Tuesday. So it'll be them and the Knicks in the Eastern Conference semifinals, and it'll be the Pacers and the Cavs. So interesting matchups in the Eastern Conference semifinals, but we'll get to that in a second. We'll get deeper with Scott in a little bit here. But going to this weekend's matchups, we got Game 6 of Houston and Golden State. That is tonight on ESPN at 8 o'clock. Will Houston force Game 7, or will Steph be Steph and we'll get playoff Jimmy and the Warriors can clinch the series and take care of business?
I had the Warriors in 7, but you at home tonight. Excuse me. I know the Rockets won there a couple of times, I believe, during the regular season, but in the playoffs they're 0 for 2. So the Warriors are at home tonight. I'm going with Golden State to close it out here. This is what you brought Jimmy Butler here for these moments to secure a playoff series win to head on to the next round. And this is going to happen. And Steph should be Steph in the fourth quarter. So the Warriors had nice contributions by Brandon Podziemski. Of course, Draymond Green's been heading up defensive charge as well. So, and Buddy Hield's been having a nice last couple of games. So I think the Warriors will have enough to get this done tonight. They're at home, so I expect them to finish off the Houston Rockets.
And tomorrow night, a weird start time for Denver, 6:30. That's our time, which is 5:30 Denver time. And they host the Clippers in Game 7. That game will be on TNT. True TV is streaming on Max. I think if you're the Clippers, you want to try to get ahead early on. Do Zubac do what he's doing, and try to tame Jokic. Try to see, don't leave Aaron Gordon open. I know people are already saying that Russell Westbrook will probably have a monster Game 7 because this is what he usually does, or maybe he does, depending on how you look at it. Harden, Kawhi, this is his first time in Game 7 either, so it's really going to depend on who sends the message early on in this game tomorrow.
Actually, it's not the first time Kawhi. Well, the Kawhi has been in Game 7. Of course, remember back in 2019 was with the Raptors. He hit that game winner against Philadelphia in the second round. That was a Game 7. But like I said, experience is going to come into play for both these teams. I know Denver has more of it with their recent championship run from a couple of years ago. I know I had the Clippers originally in 6, but like you said, cut down on the turnovers, get off to a nice start, limit Jokic's offensive output. Make sure that Jamal Murray doesn't get off like he did the other night in Game 5. Christian Brown has been the other supporting role player in this series, and you got to limit his offensive output as well. I know Russell Westbrook has been the only spark plug coming off the bench for Denver, so if you can control the other 4 guys on the floor for Denver, just let Jokic, let him do what he does. But if you can limit the Jokic supporting cast, I think that the Clippers can win this game. Just take a page out of the playbook what the Minnesota Timberwolves did a year ago. So if the Clippers could do that, they must win. On the flip side for Denver, we know Jokic is going to get his. Christian Brown has been impressive in this series. If Eric Gordon has another performance like he did the other night in Game 5, if Michael Porter Jr. ever shows up, I think they can win big going away, even though they're playing at home. So I think it's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a classic game. Even though I'm cheering hard as hell for the Clippers, I think Denver's going to pull it out at the end.
I had a couple Clippers in 7, so hopefully that prediction comes up to fruition. On Sunday, May the 4th be with you. Golden State, Houston, we'll see if that goes 7 if necessary. And the first game of Indiana and Cleveland, I believe Indiana did win a couple of those games with Cleveland. So we'll get more in depth into it with our buddy Scott Lewis coming up in a minute here. But it was the Second City Sports on Sports. I've got LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown with you as we wrap up this first hour. Go real quick to the NHL, Stanley Cup playoffs, I should say. Real quick, we already had a couple of clinchers yesterday. Toronto took care of business against Ottawa. Vegas, well, I mean,
I told you.
Sid had Vegas in 6. That's what happened. Yeah, and the Wild. Oh God, I mean, I feel bad for the Wild. This has not been a good. I mean, the Wild is actually the first team in any of the 4 major leagues, MLB, NBA, NFL, and NHL in this case, to make to the playoffs 8+ times in a 10-year span, but lost in the opening round every time. Well, the Canadians did it, back in the 30s and 40s, but oh god, that was just not a good showing there. Not bad me, but Colorado and Dallas. The Colorado beat Dallas last night. Edmonton, I got redeemed there. They beat the Kings there, and the Kings actually also they're the second team to be eliminated by the same opponent in the opening round of the playoffs 4 years in a row. The only other team was the Brewers. They lost to the Canadians back in the 80s, in 84, 85, 86, and 87. So, real quick, Sid, what's your assessment of the Stanley Cup playoffs?
The Kings may have to fire their head coach. We'll see what happens with that, especially after losing again to the Edmonton Oilers. You were up 2-0 in that series, but as we said, in the playoffs, especially hockey, anything can happen. So, congratulations to the Edmonton Oilers for moving on. Dallas and Colorado tomorrow night for Game 7. I think that's going to be a game for the goaltenders. Whoever steps up, I think is going to win. Dallas is the better team here. I expect them to win. I picked them to win this series, so I think it's going to be a low scoring game. Everything's going to be tight checking and tight defensively. So, but I think Dallas is up to the challenge. I think they'll win that one. As far as the Golden Knights, I told you they were going to win this series. Enough said. And the Maple Leafs finally got rid of those pesky Ottawa Senators. So, congratulations to the Washington Capitals. They won their series the other night, along with the Florida Panthers. And of course, we have one game tonight in that Blues Winnipeg Jets series. Winnipeg better wrap it up tonight, even though Game 6 is on the road for them, because if they don't, they go to the Game 7, they're in trouble. I think they're in trouble.
I'm thinking they will take care of business tonight. They better. So, we'll see what happens there. That game will be on TNT True TV and streaming on Max at 7. And as Sid said, the Colorado Dallas series. I had Colorado in 6, so I already lost that bet. So, hopefully Colorado will win this game tomorrow night. This game will be on ABC and streaming on ESPN Plus. So, ABC gets a prime time game. So, that's going to be, it should be a fun one. There's a great atmosphere there. I'm sure it's going to get good ratings. So we'll see what happens there. And let me see, is there a schedule for, the St. Louis Winnipeg game isn't necessary. It better not be a Game 7. Winnipeg, you better take care of business tonight.
Stay tuned for more sports and more fun. The Second City Sports continues with Scott Lewis and Miss Christine the Queen Manika. You're listening to Sports Zone Chicago.
No, I don't know though. I'm scared. I mean, you're
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Many will hear the calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports, the hashtag Friday Fun edition, the first for the month of May. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I am Sidney Brown, along with my co-host, Miss LaKeena McGee, which is she. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, again, and IG.
If you have any questions or comments especially for our next guest, as we discuss the NBA playoffs and the Chicago Bears selections from last week's 2025 NFL Draft, you can definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments to the comment section. Again, we'll get the up of the screen for you.
Oh, okay, Sid. Our next guest wears many hats. He is the CEO and founder of the Barber Company. He also is one half of the 79th and House podcast. He's also the host of the I'm Not Gonna Hold You podcast. Also, Chicago Bears Confidential Media. Like I said, he wears a lot of hats everywhere. You know, he knows NFL and NBA. So let's get him up with us right now. Here's Mr. Scott Lewis, the cool Mr. Scott Lewis. Scott, how are you?
Hey. What's going on?
Oh,
no, how y'all
feeling?
Are you?
Good.
Doing pretty good.
Good. I know we got a lot to talk with you, Scott. So let's get right to it. Let's start with the Bears first. I will ask you to give them a grade just after the draft. But do you think that they filled up all the holes and needs that they needed to under new head coach Ben Johnson?
Oh, I think they filled every hole except for running back. I think running back was one of the main things that a lot of people looking. There's a lot of rumors really leading up into the actual pick with the Raiders that the Bears could trade up to get an Ashton Genty. And then Ryan Poles even kind of confirmed a little bit in his post-draft press conference that they were trying to trade up to get Ashton Genty, but no deal really came together. And they also were trying to trade up to get one of the Ohio State running backs in the second round, but as we saw, they went very, very quickly off the board. But besides that, I think they pretty much did everything they need to do. Going with tight end and with the first pick, hitting every type of hole they had. Offensive line, getting another linebacker. My favorite pick today was Luther Burden III. That to me was the steal of all steals. They got a first round talent in the second round. But yeah, I was very, very impressed with the way they've done everything. I know a lot of fans weren't really that happy at first with getting a tight end in the first round, even though it was Colston Loveland. It's been a lot of conversation about who's better, him or Penn State's Tyler Warren. But if you look at anything if you look at the way that he called games with Detroit, now he like to use the tight ends over there. This is somebody who matches up in that system, and a lot of people, a lot of draft experts had Loveland higher on their list than they did Tyler Warren. So I really think it was a draft for them, man. I think for anybody who had questions, just trust Ben Johnson. That's pretty much what I would say.
I was going to ask you, Scott, about Ben Johnson. You could tell that his DNA was all over this draft, and me and LaKeena have been discussing throughout this whole process leading up to the draft. I think it's between 70-30 and 60-40 with his relationship thus far between himself and of course Ryan Poles. Give us your percentage of what Ben Johnson has his effect been on the organization. Is it 70-30, 60-40, or maybe you see it different way? Maybe it's a 50-50 partnership between him and Pulse up to this point.
I think it's 50-50. It sounds, reasonable, but I think it's probably more than that. I think it's probably 70-30. I think this is Ben Johnson's team. They didn't pay him all the money that they still haven't told us exactly what they paid him, but we know that it's very high on the top coaches payments. To me, this didn't feel like a Ryan Poles draft. This was Ryan Poles' fourth draft, and his have been a lot of hits and misses. It's been a mixed bag. This draft felt real Ben Johnson, and so of course, obviously Ryan Poles makes the final decision because he is the general manager. But I do believe that he has a lot of influence on what happens, and I don't think Ryan Poles has a problem with it. This is a guy who a lot of Bears fans, a lot of media thought that he might lose the job a couple months ago. And now, even when you listen to his press conferences, he sounds way more confident. And I think he finally feels good that he has his guy. We can still talk about how Eberflus got hired, and I don't think he had anything to do with the hiring process. I don't think it was possible with him being interviewed at the same time. But this one, I feel like he trusts Ben, and I feel like Ben had majority of the say-so. So I would say 70-30. I don't want to put it 80-20. But I do think 70-30 probably makes the most sense.
Now, Scott, what needs do you think the Bears still need to kind of fill here? Edge rusher. I know you said running back. Even though they got the kid from Rutgers. What moves do you think Ryan Poles still need to make to kind of fill the needs of this roster?
Defensive line, hands down. I still think this is a mediocre group. Now, I think that a lot of it has to do with the scheme that Eberflus was running last year. It wasn't a lot of blitzes. They didn't send a lot of people. So I think in Dennis Allen's system, a lot of that will change. Now, they did add Grady Jarrett. They did Wale. I keep forgetting how to pronounce his name, from Indianapolis Colts. And, now you've got another year of Gervon Dexter. We've even heard that they're going to use him on the edge this year. And, of course, you got Montez Sweat. So I think just by default of that, it should be better than last year's. But this doesn't strike me as a get to the quarterback 30, 40 sack type team, which is we see teams that make it deep in the playoffs have great pass rush. Just look at the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes looked human because of how great the Eagles pass rush was. So I think that's still the biggest hole that they've got. I don't think there's anything they can be able to do now to change it. There's some vets that's going to be available that you could probably sign in late May, early June, but nothing that will really change the course of how this defensive line will look. So I really just think that's the biggest hole. Like I said, running back, there's been a lot of questions about would they go over there and get a Nick Chubb. He's recovering from a broken foot. We've heard Dobbins from the Chargers. There's been a lot of different rumors. So I do believe the running back will be a position they do address. I think they're set at defensive line. I think they believe that it was a wrong scheme more than anything, and even with the additions of Grady Jarrett can help Montez Sweat. But I still think that's their Achilles heel right now.
Going back to Luther Burton with that selection, Scott, I'm with you. When was the last time the Bears had a guy that could stretch the field and run after the catch? It's been a long time. Me and LaKeena talked about this on our show leading up to the draft when Keenan Allen was here last year. Of course, you have Roma Duse, who had a nice year last year. Of course, you have DJ Moore. Those are possession guys, which are nice, but the Bears haven't had that guy that could really stretch the field in a long time. What do you expect out of Luther Burton in year long? One, does he have a chance to get over 100 catches? Do you think he'll get at least close to double-digit touchdown receptions? What do you expect for him in year one, number one, provided that the offensive line stays healthy and everything else stays on track?
I don't know about 100 catches because there's going to be a lot of people trying to get the ball. Of course, DJ is going to be the number one. Rome, I expect his usage to go way up from where it was last year. Then you got the two tight end system with Cole Kmet and also Loveland. I keep messing up my man's name, Colston Loveland.
Yeah.
Colston Loveland. And then you also got DeAndre Swift, who is a pass catching back as well. So I don't know about 100 catches, but I think he's going to be great. I think that they have found their version of Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now I know that's probably sound like a crazy comparison because of how great Amon-Ra is, but he is, to me, in that same mode. He's going to be dominant from the slot. And like you just said, Sid, I can't remember the last really great slot the Bears have had, maybe ever. So he can go over there, do that, and he's also a deep threat. And it's just going to make the defense more honest because DJ Moore was used so wrong last year. Like, if I had a $1 every time I was in that press box and saw him behind the line of the scrimmage, that's not going to be the case this year. And I really think with those two, with Rome and DJ, it's just going to give Luther so many opportunities to be dominant. And I really think he's going to have a really great rookie year. And there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be wondering, how did that guy drop to the second round? That, to me, was exciting. When I saw it, I was in the airport, LAX airport, and I just got the notification. I almost did a Tiger Woods fist bump because I was like, we can't get one of those running backs from Ohio State. This was the next best for me, so I loved it.
Well, they got to have a good old line. Of course, they picked up, of course, multiple Super Bowl winner Joe Tunney, Jonah Jackson, of course, who Ben Johnson worked with a lot when he was in Detroit. Of course, they drafted Trapilo. Do you think Darnell Wright goes to left tackle if Braxton Jones still isn't ready by training camp? Or what do you think the O-line is going to look like?
Well, first of all, I got to just give credit to Ryan Post for fixing it that quick. I didn't think he was going to fix it that quick. They got a lot. I love the Joe Tooney trade. I love getting Jackson from the Rams. And of course, we all know getting a center. Dahlman. We haven't had a great center or even a good center since Olin Cruz left the building. I know they tried to get Cody Whitehair to play it, and he was playing out of position, but they have not had one since then. So just off that, I love it. But as far as the left tackle thing, he was on Captain J. Hood yesterday, and he started alluding to the fact that Ozzie Trapilio, I don't think that's his last name, will be starting at left tackle. He has a chance to start at left tackle this season, and that they're going to keep Darnell Wright at right tackle. To me, that's the perfect situation right there because I don't know how Darnell will look left tackle. You bring in this guy, don't know much about him, but he looks like a perfect offensive lineman, just built 6'8". That's just ridiculously big for offensive linemen. So I think that will probably be the answer. I think that Braxton Jones will have a chance. I think it'll be one of those training camp battles, but as we know, he's still coming back from that injury. He had surgery. So it's going to take him a little longer. But one thing that Ben Johnson has made crystal clear, that there's no depth chart. So it kind of feels like there's going to be a real battle there, but the rookie has a real good chance to start a left tackle.
How surprised were you that the Bears didn't address the safety position in the draft? Of course, Kevin Byard is going into the last year of his deal. And, of course, we all know about the injury history of Jaquan Brisker. Of course, he missed the majority of last year due to concussion. How surprised were you that the Bears didn't address the safety position from last week's draft?
Not that surprised. I think that even whatever with Kevin Byard, I think this is the strongest position on the Bears by far, with the secondary. Now, of course, you got problems with, hope Jaquan Brisker can stay on the field. When he's on the field, he's dominant. But, when you have a Kyler Gordon who just got paid, when you got Jalen Johnson, who is your shutdown corner, there's a lot of questions around Tyreek Stevenson, but to me, that's the healthiest of the, the different positions they have on the Bears. But I think they also kind of puts their faith in Kevin Byard. I think we're fine with him for at least another year. They did draft the DB. They went and drafted Zai Frazier. So he doesn't play safety, but I do think they addressed the corner position just in case Tyreek Stevenson doesn't get back to what we think he can get. But not really surprised about the safety thing. I think that's a strong unit.
Yeah, very strong. Now, how do you think the defense looks the way they make of it? Because I think they still need, like you said, they do still need an edge rusher. But of course, they brought on Jarrett. They signed Kyler Gordon, to fresh paper and deservedly so. They brought in Noah Sewell. So, how do you think the defense looks so far?
Well, I was one of the defense's biggest critics last year. I think that if you just look at the score, the box score, you think, oh, this is a solid defense. I watched them give up too many leads these last 2 years. I think I blame the scheme more than the players because Eberflus just had a very relaxed scheme. I don't think that's going to be the case with Dennis Allen. I think it's going to be a lot of head knocking. I think it's going to be a lot of old school Bears defense. I don't expect this to be an elite unit, but I expect this to be a very good unit. And in today's NFL, you don't really need an elite unit. If you're putting up points, just have a somewhat decent unit and you're fine. That's why, to me, all the pressure is on Caleb Williams and the offense. If they're putting up, almost around, 25, 30 points a game, this defense, I believe, when healthy, can at least hold it down for them to win more games than not. So I think it's a good unit. And I just think this whole roster in general, I think people, I don't think this is a 12-loss roster. And I'm not saying the players didn't have anything to do with it. But I was in that locker room. I went to all those games. That arguably was the worst coaching in Bears history. And that says a lot because this team employed Mark Trestman. But it was just to that level where I feel like, with just competent coaching, this team is going to be so much better, and especially on the defensive side as well.
All right, co-founder of the Barber Share Network and the co-host of the I'm Not Going to Hold You podcast. You can check out right here on YouTube. We hang out with our guy, Scott Lewis, right here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid LaKeena here with you. Let's transition over to the NBA playoffs. We won't ask you about the bullshit yet, Scott. We don't want to give you a headache, but the Los Angeles Lakers, they got eliminated by the Minnesota Timberwolves the other night in 5 games. LeBron and Luka did their thing, but of course, Luka's conditioning is in question again. LeBron James is getting up there in age. Clearly, the Lakers didn't have the role players. The Minnesota Timberwolves did. When the smoke clears and the dust settles, were you really surprised how the Minnesota Timberwolves really dominated the Lakers in this series?
Dominated? Yeah, I was surprised how they dominated them. I picked the Lakers in 7, just because they had home court. I wasn't shocked they beat them. I said on my playoff preview, wouldn't surprise me. I felt like that series was a pick 'em. But what I predicted was actually funny. Actually happened. I said right before the playoffs started, this has nothing to do with the superstars. It has nothing to do with LeBron, Luka, and whose others are gonna show up. The others for the Lakers did not show up. The others for the Wolves showed up. Rudy Gobert looked like Wilt Chamberlain the other night. Nas Reed has been phenomenal all season. Jaden McDaniels has been amazing. That bench, Michael Conley's good every now and then. And I just feel like when you have a team that's as deep as they are, Anthony Edwards is able to destroy the way he's been able to destroy it. Now, as a 20-plus year LeBron James hater, I enjoyed every minute of it. But I was very glad to be wrong. But I was not really surprised that they lost, but I didn't think they were going to get dismantled the way they were. And I'll say this about Luka. Everybody's killing Nico Harrison for the trade, and rightfully so. I was one of the people, I still wouldn't do that trade. But when you see Luka not even attempt to play defense, like, I don't feel Nico Harrison, but I feel Nico Harrison at the same time. Like, to me, that needs to be fixed immediately because it's not about this year. It's not about next year. It's about the next 10 years that the Lakers are going to be dedicating to Luka. And if they're going to do that, he's got to do a lot more on his behalf to be ready for playoff time. This is 3rd year in a row we've seen him run out of gas in the playoffs, and it's only been first round, so that was a little shocking to me.
What about the other LA team? They forced Game 7. They'll play tomorrow against Denver. Who do you have winning tomorrow night?
That's going to be a good one. I just got to shout out I covered the Clippers for 3 seasons, and I'm just glad that they're healthy, that Kawhi is healthy. Being around that team, and I remember covering a couple games in the last couple playoffs. I remember against Phoenix 2 years ago, and Kawhi was destroying Phoenix in like game 1 and 2. I'm heading to the Staples Center for game 3. I get an alert. Oh, Kawhi's out, mysterious injury. So I'm just glad for Kawhi's sake, because Kawhi's a nice dude, that he's healthy. So more than just serious, I've enjoyed watching Kawhi hoop. I think a lot of people have forgotten just how good he is. But as far as this series, to me, this has been probably the best series of the playoffs so far. I think Detroit and New York is pretty good, but I think this has been the best series of the playoffs. I think it's a pick-em game, but I always roll with the team that has the best player. When it comes to a game 7, whoever has the best player in the series, especially at home, I usually roll with them. Now, the coaching aspect is where things could change. Ty Lue, he's more of a veteran coach. Rick Adelman's son. I don't know his actual name. I don't want to mess his actual name up. I don't want to call him Rick Adelman's son, but he's a rookie coach. He just got thrown into it. It's gonna be different. Like Ty Lue has been in Game 7s. Ty Lue won maybe the most famous Game 7 of all time against the Golden State Warriors. So I do feel like that will happen. But Jokic, he's had an up and down series, but he's at home, season on the line. I think that the Nuggets will win a very, very close one tomorrow. But also, we're not shocking the Clippers win because of their experience in the coaching booth. And just also Kawhi in Game 7s, we've seen has been very, very dominant.
Me and LaKeena brought this up regarding this series right before you hopped on with us. Ivan Zubac for the Clippers. He's been a problem for Jokic, both on offensively and defensively. Talk to us about him and his impact for the Clippers in this series thus far.
Man, he's been phenomenal. Like, I haven't seen somebody who has improved the way he has. And I also ain't seen nobody guard Jokic as successfully as he has. Like, Jokic, I think, is probably averaging a triple-double in this series, but he's had some bad games. Like, these have not been good shooting games. Like, he missed the easy layup that if Russell Westbrook missed that same layup last night, we'd be killing him. But Jokic gets away with it. Mm-hmm. But he has just had bad games. Even when they won Game 5, I think he was 4 for 13. And that's all because of Zubac. And you got to give him credit for that. Offensively, he's been great. And defensively, he's been great. And I think that's been freeing up the rest of the team for Norman Powell to do what he's doing, for James Harden and for Kawhi for their jobs to be easier. So I think he is the glue to that team. And that if he has a monster game tomorrow, that could switch the favor for the Clippers. But he's been phenomenal.
Yeah, he really has. Let's talk about the Eastern Conference for a bit here, Scott. And out of the two semifinals that are left, you got Indiana and I forgot. Indiana, Indiana and Cleveland. Indiana and Cleveland in one semi. You've got, of course, the Knicks and the Celtics. That should be a good one in the other semi. Who do you have in both those series?
Well, I know a lot of Knicks fans. They're very annoying human beings. But I think that was a big win for them last night. Jalen Brunson is a dog. I think that he is vastly underpaid. He is at worst a top 5 point guard in this league. I probably would still take like the Lukas, Kyrie when he's healthy, obviously Steph Curry, but he's amazing. The problem for them is the Pistons could have very easily won this series if they didn't have the basketball IQ of a child. Like, it was ridiculous. Like, they have too many vets on their team for them to be playing as bad as they did in the clutch. That's not gonna fly against Boston. Not only is the bad IQ gonna be bad, I love Tibbs. We love him in Chicago. We all know that boy don't run no offense. The just pass it to Jalen Brunson and get out his way is not gonna fly when you got Drew Holiday guarding you or you got Derek White guarding you. And the scary thing for them, they got swept by the Celtics in the regular season, and none of the games have really been that close. Celtics have won by an average of 16.3 points. And I'm one of Jason Tatum's biggest critics. I call him Cosplay Kobe on the show, but he has been dominant this year and has been shutting me up. And I feel that this is going to be a very quick series. I think it's going to be a 5-game series, and you're really going to see the difference between the two. And I think what the Knicks have done has been good for what their roster entails, but it's just a bad matchup for them. I think Celtics are far away the best team in basketball, and I think that while I don't think it's going to be a series where the Knicks are just getting blown out every game. I think it's going to be a very competitive 5-game series, and I think it'll be a win for the Knicks if they can eke it out to 6 games. But Boston's just too smart. Boston plays too much defense, and at the end of the day, they got 2 closers Actually, they got more than 2 closers. Derek White is a closer too.
Yeah.
So they've got so many options that they can go, and I think that Cat is gonna have a time with Kristaps Porzingis as well. But on the other series, I don't think people are giving the Pacers enough credit. Like, this has been a team where it kind of like on the Minnesota side where everybody's like, oh, Minnesota's the 6th seed. Well, if you've been watching, they've been dominant the last 2 months. The Pacers has been a different team since the calendar turned 2025. Tyrese Halliburton's been great. Siakam's been great. The whole team has really stepped up. Cleveland did what they're supposed to do against Miami. But I think it's going to be a long series. I'm going to take Cleveland, but I feel this is going the full 7, and this is going to be a real old school East Coast, Eastern Conference type series that you're going to see here. But I think Tyrese Halliburton proves he's up for the challenge. Just went past Giannis. Like, he's not one of the best defenders in this league to win that game. And this one to me is about the others. Whose others are going to step up? Because we know Donovan's going to be there. We know Tyrese is going to be there. Whose others are going to step up? So I think it's going to be a very, very fun series. But when the smoke clears, I think we're going to get Boston and Cleveland like everybody thought it would be.
Last moment too with Scott Lewis from the Barber Chair Network and the co-host of I'm Not Gonna Hold You podcast. He's hanging out here with us right here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Still LaKeena here, hanging out here with you. Scott, going back to the New York Knicks, we assume that they're going to lose this series, which they probably are to the Boston Celtics. Assuming they get dominated, like you said, many Knicks fans are annoying. I listened to some New York sports radio, both their stations. Yeah. But if the Knicks get dominated, I know we listen for information. But assume that the Knicks get dominated by the Celtics in this series. Many Knicks fans want Tom Thibodeau out there. Do you think that how the Knicks lose the series? Do you think Tom Thibodeau gets the pink slip and then bring in Mike Malone, or what do you think is going to happen? Now, if it's a close series and they lose, do you think Tom Thibodeau is back for next year, but with a shorter leash?
Honestly, I think it's not looking good for my boy Tibbs. No matter how close it is. And I say that because in today's NBA, we know you got to strike right away. With the second apron, teams get expensive. And you're going to have to add more pieces to take it to the next level. And on top of that, you gave up 5 first-round draft picks for Mikal Bridges, who's been very hot and cold this season. So you need to win now. And when you have a Hall of Fame championship-winning coach like Michael Malone, who's not going to be going to San Antonio now because they just named a new head coach after Pop stepped down this morning, that to me is perfect right there. He has New York Knicks ties. This is a team that kind of fits what he does. He's had the big man point guard thing with Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. I think that Michael Malone is exactly the type of New York Knicks coach that could take him over that next level. Now, it's not just coaching that's the issue. They're going to have to add, to me, a third scorer. And I like OG Anunoby. I think he's really, really good. But they're going to need something that's going to take them over the top in the Eastern Conference because Boston's not going to. They're just like that. That's the scary thing for the East is when they won last year. Like, I feel like Boston's been around for so long that we forget that this is still a very young team. So I think that when they lose, because it's not no if, but when they lose, it would not surprise me if all eyes on Michael Malone.
Oh yeah, I think definitely there. Well, like a couple other jobs are open as well. Now, last question for me, Scott. The Bulls, let it rip. I mean, Bulls get their butts kicked by Miami in the play-in again, and even though despite a good February and March. So, what do you think the Bulls can do? And let it rip, Scott. Let it rip.
Unfortunately, I hate to say it, there's no hope for the Bulls. There's no hope for any Jerry Reinsdorf owned team until they sell. But the unfortunate thing for the Bulls is we do know that Jerry Reinsdorf he is instructed for when he does pass away that the team gets sold. We all know the Eastwoods, they have been buying a lot of stocks, so I feel like there's a light at the tunnel for the White Sox that there might be some new ownership coming. The Bulls are screwed because Michael Reinsdorf's not selling them. They are a cash cow. The White Sox aren't a cash cow. The Bulls are a cash cow. If you look at, they're number 1 in attendance for like the 3rd year in a row. Every year they're in the top 5 merchandise, they are one of the most popular teams on this earth. When I was in London doing the Bears game this past October, I saw a lot of Bulls jerseys out there. Every time I go to like a road game in LA, the Bulls play, it's a sea of Bulls fans. So unfortunately for Bulls fans, as long as the money keeps coming in, nothing's gonna happen. I think at the most that we can hope for is that you get lucky with the lottery balls in a couple weeks. That's the only thing that we can hope, and maybe you get a top 3 pick. I think this draft is more than just Cooper Flag. If they can get a top 3 pick, maybe there's some hope there. But AK and Mark Eversley, and we say on the show, we call him West Side West, because I don't know if anybody has ever seen this dude. I haven't. He got hired, and I have not seen him since. But they've been worse than John Paxson and Gar Forman. At least at the worst, you could say that John Paxson hit on his draft picks. Now, you got Buzelis. He had a pretty solid rookie year. The Josh Giddey signing looked decent, even though you're gonna have to probably pay him a lot of money. I just don't see a path realistically to even get them in the top 4 of the Eastern Conference. And it's a shame because to me it's a sleeping giant. We all know that like there's a lot of Bulls. It's a basketball city as well. But unless Michael Reinsdorf wakes up and smells the coffee, I have nothing. Unfortunately, I don't see nothing happening.
Sid?
All right, Scott, thank you very much for joining us here today on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Glad to have you back on the program. Before we let you go, tell us where can we find you on social media and where can we catch your podcast?
You can follow me at Barber Scott on all social media platforms. That's Twitter/X, Instagram, TikTok, all of that. You can follow 79th and Hallis, S79th and Hallis. And I'm not gonna hold you every Monday and Friday on HB Media TV and Barbershop Network on YouTube and on both YouTube pages, HB Media TV and Barbershop. So we're going live in a couple hours, so we got a lot of stuff to talk about on there. So follow me everywhere, man. Appreciate y'all having me on.
All right. Continued success, Todd. We'll definitely have you on.
Thank you, Scott. Much continued success. All right.
Y'all too.
All right.
Thank you.
See you, Scott. All right, from the Barbershop Podcast, Mr.
Right.
Scott Lewis. We got our girl Christine Mann from KXRB on deck. So we're gonna take a 2 and 2, and we got a lot to talk about with her from sports media news, White Sox, Bill Belichick, and so much more. So our sports potpourri segment with Miss Christine Mann from KXRB coming up right after this. LaKeena, McGee, Second Brown, Second City Sports on Sports in Chicago. Stick and stay right there.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I needed for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class. These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver. I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to the Friday Funk edition of Second City Sports. You're locked and loaded and real live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid LaKeena here with you. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow McGee on the Twitter, X, and IG.
This is our last break of the show for today and for the week. So if you have any last minute questions or comments for us in any of the topics we discussed on today's program, you can hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you.
All right, let's not waste any more time. Says she is our girl from KXRB in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. She's our girl, your girl, our weekend girl, Miss Christine, the Queen Manika. What's up, Christine?
Yeah.
Hello, happy Friday.
How are ya?
Happy Friday to you.
Good.
How are you?
Good. Weather's great, so we're happy.
Yes, absolutely. We got to talk with you about Christine. So we actually were talking about with our other buddy Scott Lewis just a few minutes ago. What grade would you give the Bears in their NFL draft picks?
I would give them a B plus. I think they did pretty well. They got what they needed. I'm still confused about the Loveland and the tight end situation they got going on. I know with Ben Johnson, he's been known to run a 2-2, which is 2 wide receivers, 2 tight ends. So we'll see what he can cook up with this new lineup he's got.
Yeah, sticking with the draft, we forgot to ask Scott about this again, but we'll ask this question to you, Christine. What did you think about the whole Shedeur Sanders fiasco? Most people thought he was going to get drafted in the first 2 rounds. It didn't happen. He slides all the way down to the 5th round. It's a crowded quarterback room. I think, and of course, that stupid prank call by the defensive coordinator of the Atlanta Falcons, his son was just stupid. He got fined for it. Talking about the defensive coach got fined for it, and rightfully so. But what did you think about all this, Christine, with Shedeur Sanders being selected by the Cleveland Browns? And do you think that we'll see him on the field this year, or whenever that is, for the Cleveland Browns for in some significant playing time this year?
See, I was one of those people that thought that Shedeur was going to get picked up in the 3rd, maybe 4th round. I didn't think he was going to be in the 1st round or 2nd round right away. Seeing him in the 5th round is pretty surprising. What's even more surprising was that he was picked up by the Browns, who now have an interesting quarterback situation. Aside from Deshaun Watson, because in my mind, he's just out of the picture. They have 4 quarterbacks right now, and they just got back Joe Flacco. So it's definitely going to be a fight for the starting position. I think by the end, Joe Flacco is going to get it. That's my prediction. But who's going to be the number 2? That's going to be the question, I think, right now for the Browns team. As far as the prank goes, it's poor on the defensive coach for the Falcons, obviously, but it's also really poor for his kid too. I mean, it just wasn't Shadur that got affected by that prank call. It was another player that was getting drafted in this year's class too. So two players, waiting for this big moment, and all of a sudden it got tainted by just a stupid prank phone call. Why and how he got access to his dad's personal information when it comes to recruiting and players' informations, I don't have the answer to that. It's possible that maybe he saw the computer was open and just thought it would be funny in his mind. And I'm sure his dad had no idea about it, just from how remorseful he was sounding in his press conference the other day. I think, yes, it's right for him to get fined, but I think you should have put the blame more on the kid. Yes, it was your responsibility to keep that private, but what's the kid getting out of it? A slap on the wrist, probably. He probably will have a reputation attached to his name now, but it just seems like he should have gotten a little bit more of a punishment than what his dad did.
Well, I think it wasn't just Shadur either. I think what Tyler Warren. I know he said he
Right.
got a crank call, but also I think Abdul Carter. Of course, he ended up being drafted by the Giants. He also said he also got a crank call from somebody. So I think the NFL needs to do a better job of policing. Kind of protecting the numbers of these guys. So it's just kind of crazy how all that all that played out there. Hopefully, this doesn't become a trend, and people can combat this. So we'll see what happens there. Now going to the rest of the NFL, I guess that's the main thing here. I guess you can say is, let's see here, Jordan Travis. Unfortunately, of course, you guys remember the former QB from Florida State. Suffered a horrific leg injury a couple of years ago. He's been rehabbing. I know he signed with the Jets last year, but unfortunately, because of those injuries, he now has to retire. So just awful news. You feel awful for him, but he is getting paid. So nice, a nice sentiment there by the Jets. So just awful. He's only 25 years old, but it was just awful that whole scenario.
It's always tough when you see a player with so much potential just have to end his career just out of the blue, out of the sudden. So you definitely feel for him.
Yep. We're hanging out with our girl, Miss Christine, the Queen Manika, right here on Second City Sports Zone Chicago City. LaKeena here with you on another Friday Fun edition, the first one for the month of May. Christine, since it's on my mind, let's transition over to baseball. The White Sox finally won a game. They beat the Brewers yesterday, 8-0. This weekend, they'll host the Houston Astros. Of course, this is the 20th year of the 05 World Series. Senior Shooter is going to be out there tomorrow and Sunday. I wanted to ask you, take us back 20 years ago. Putting Game 4 aside where the White Sox won it all, what was your favorite memory of that 05 World Series against the Astros?
I was in fourth grade and I, watched that season. I remember with my family quite often. We watched the World Series together. My favorite player to this day is still Jermaine Dye. So I was cheering on for him, and Katie, my sister, she loved Paul Konerko. It was just such a great year, such a great season for the White Sox, obviously with the World Series. But it was full of a lot of heart and a lot of good guys on that team. When you got good chemistry, that something magical is going to happen throughout the year. And we were lucky enough to see that, and still reminiscing about it 20 years later.
Yeah, it's funny that haven't planned anything since they are playing the Astros at home, but it's sort of. But they got stuff coming up later this summer, so it's fine. So
let me just, not to interrupt you, LaKeena, but I know some of the players will be back in July when Mark Burley will get that statue. So some of the players from that team will be in town. Not this weekend, unfortunately, like you said, but they'll be in town in July. That I think it's Friday, July 11th, when Mark Burley get that statue. So many of the former players will be back. I know one former player will be back this weekend. He works for the Houston Astros TV crew, and that's Jeff Blum, of course, who hit the game winner, that game-winning home run in Game 3 of that World Series. You mentioned, Christine, Paul Konerko, of course. Who could forget that grand slam in Game 2
Yeah.
on the South Side in the rain on a cold Sunday night? So, as you mentioned, with that whole year, it came out of nowhere. It was Isaac Ian's second year managing the ball club. And shout out John Garley. For those of you that missed, you can catch it on CHS's YouTube page. He was on the pregame show the other night with Chuck and Ozzy, and they talked about that '05 World Series team. So if you didn't chance to catch it, check it out right here on YouTube. But that season, '05 season, came out of nowhere, and the White Sox caught fire in the playoffs, only losing one game, and that was Game 1 of the ALCS against the Anaheim Angels. We all know what happened after that, but it was great times. And what the little trailer that we got to see back in, I think it was early January. I know they did a documentary on that. Joe Buck was in it. Some of the other former players were in it as well. I cannot wait to see that documentary because, as you mentioned, Christine, with all those players on that team, and the one thing that kept getting back at me, that's the message that we saw in those clips. Most of those guys came from other teams. They're like, if you want to take it out, someone take it out on the field. Well, damn it, they did it.
Yeah, exactly. When you were mentioning Aaron the other day, when I saw him, I'm like, did he just walk out of a science class? Like he looks nothing. I know a lot can, I know a lot can change in 20 years, but oh my gosh, it's like he turned into the Andrew Luck of baseball. I'm like, I don't even recognize him.
Definitely go with
Maybe
the
that's
beard.
on purpose. I don't know.
I don't know.
Honestly, definitely going
with.
Yeah, definitely going with the beard look. I mean, I saw that interview when he did that Garland did, and he got the glasses on now. I'm like, wait, huh? It wasn't until I heard his voice. Oh, yeah, that is John Garland.
Confused.
That's like, what the heck is going on here?
Yeah.
But it was good. It was good to see him. Like I said, he said he's gonna come back for the Burley statue unveiling, and I'm sure we'll see all those guys. I'm sure as the season goes on, celebrating the anniversary and such. So yeah, I'm sure they'll be right there as well. As just like I say, sports on Sports Chicago, LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown, girl, KXRB's Christine the Queen, Manika, LeBron. And Luka, and the Lakers got eliminated by the T-Wolves earlier this week, and it also, I guess, now it's come out that LeBron suffered an MCL sprain in that Game 5 loss. So, were you surprised that the Lakers got eliminated, Christine? And what do you think happens the rest of the playoffs?
It's just interesting, that game. At first, the refs were kind of being more lenient towards Minnesota a little bit. They missed some calls, like some key calls in the start of the first quarter when they were pushing Luka down, and they just weren't calling anything on the Timberwolves. As far as the rest of the game, the Lakers just didn't play any defense. It was almost painful to watch because it's hard to see a team that wants to be in this position so bad not work for it. So I think that's how I felt anyway with the Lakers lost. I'm not surprised. They need a center. That's probably a goal that they're going to do now in this offseason. Minnesota, I think they could make a little run for it. It's going to be a battle when you still got the Knicks. They're coming off with the win, and I know we're still waiting on the Nuggets and the Clippers to see what happens to them. So yeah, it's turning out to be a pretty intense series between a lot of teams in this first round.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what the other entertaining series that I enjoy watching is the Nuggets and the Clippers. Of course, the Clippers stave off elimination with a big Game 6 win at home last night in the new Intruder Dome. What happens tomorrow night in Denver between those two teams? Do the Nuggets, with their experience and with the home court, carry it out in Game 7, or do you think the Clippers can shock some people on the road? Because remember, people forget they won Game 2 there around this time last week.
Yeah, I think the Clippers can definitely take a win, sure, but it's always tough to play in the Mile High City and that crowd, and Jokic getting fired up for it. He wants to win, and I think he's going to motivate his team to do whatever it takes for that.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you what the other entertaining series that I enjoy watching is the Nuggets and the Clippers. Of course, the Clippers stave off elimination with a big Game 6 win at home last night in the new Intruder Dome. What happens tomorrow night in Denver between those two teams? Do the Nuggets, with their experience and with the home court, carry it out in Game 7, or do you think the Clippers can shock some people on the road? Because remember, people forget they won Game 2 there around this time last week.
Yeah,
Well, one of the big news that come out of the NBA earlier this morning was Coach Pop. Greg Popovich
Yeah.
announced his retirement. He's stepping aside for a full-time role as team president. Of course, the winningest coach, 5-time NBA champion. He actually, oddly enough, he actually has more playoff wins than about 2/3 of the league. So among others, the Clippers, the Nuggets, the Pacers, the Cavs, like I said, among others, there are more. But what do you think? Of course, he couldn't, come back after he had the stroke. So just an iconic career. What are your best memories of Coach Pop coaching, Christine?
Just winning the championship in 2014. I remember that distinctively. We were in Colorado and we watched that entire final round, and it was just so electric. He had a lot of heart, still does have a lot of heart. It'd be interesting to see who his replacement is going to be. My vote is for Becky Hammond, just because when she was with the Spurs, that's what they were kind of gearing her towards, was to maybe take over the team one day. And I know she's with Vegas right now in the WNBA, but I'm kind of hoping that maybe she could do a little thinking now that Popovich is officially stepping down.
Yeah, maybe someday we'll have the first female head coach in the NBA, and maybe hopefully it'll happen sooner rather than later. We're hanging out with our girl Christine, the Queen Manika for KXRB in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, right here on the Friday Funk edition of Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago City. LaKeena here with you, Christine. Let's get to the big one. Of course, Bill Belichick, the former NFL head coach. Now he's coaching in college with the North Carolina Tar Heels. He was interviewed last week on, I believe, Sunday, CBS Sunday morning, I believe that was. I saw the clips online with his 24-year-old girlfriend. I don't know about you, but looks like she's taking over everything, and everybody and their mama, as the kids would say, had an opinion on it. She should stay up out of it, let Belichick do his job. Of course, Bill Belichick, at least in front of the camera, is so secretive. He's been like that his whole career, but his girlfriend really took over the interview, and from what I've been hearing, she's kind of taking over that program as well, in more other ways than one. We won't discuss that here, but for what you've seen online and what others had to say about it, give us your thoughts on the whole Bill Belichick interview from last weekend.
If it wasn't for Jordan stepping in, he would have answered the question. He was more than willing to talk about, her involvement at the start of that portion. And right when that question came out, it's like a light flicked in her head, and she automatically was like, nope, we're not talking about this. So it's a very interesting dynamic that we're seeing unfold here. My first thought was domestic abuse. Like, it's Belichick that's getting abused by Jordan a little bit. I know that's a strong accusation to say, but just from watching that clip and seeing everything that's come out after that, it does seem like, she's tying Bill's hands behind his back and the one running the show. And you don't want to think about that, but definitely her stepping in is raising a lot more questions than what it did before.
What's that old Kanye hit? I ain't saying she a gold digger, but and from what I've read, look, from what I've read, his two kids, of course, Steven, of course, he is a coordinator in the NFL, and also his Amanda's daughter. I think she's also in the Forks in athletics as well. I think she coaches the lacrosse over at Holy Cross, her alma mater. And what I've heard, again, this is just from TMZ and stuff like that. They're not too crazy about their dad going with a 24-year-old. So I'm a little like, they met in the airport. I don't believe that for 1 second. And
I don't believe that.
No, I don't either. I don't either.
And
yeah. No, absolutely not. And this is going to end well if they don't get, if he doesn't get out of there, because especially in North Carolina, I'm sure they're just like, what the heck do we just decide ourselves? Well,
I said, if anything, she's tinting his reputation more now than what he was doing in the NFL. Like, say what you want about Belichick, but he is who he is, and you like it or you don't like it. And he's made a strong career out of that. Now having Jordan in the mix and her being as demanding and basically cruel, like it's not doing him any good right now from a PR perspective, which is what she's claiming to be. Like she is literally damaging his reputation.
Now, if Bill Belichick is using this to recruit kids to come to his program, it's really a double-edged sword. And LaKeena, we talked about this last year when he was doing Inside the NFL for the CW. He was actually good at it, but he was on social media. He was doing other things to trying to get back into the NFL. The NFL said, "No, we don't want you around here anymore." That's why he was doing the broadcasting for last season. But this girlfriend of his, they're using her to recruit players. At least part of the deal to recruit players. It's a double-edged sword, and like you said, it's not going to end well.
No, it's not going to end well. And he shouldn't even need someone else to try to get recruits. It's Bill Belichick in itself that you're going to get coached by. That's all the recruiting tactics that you need.
But yeah, poor Bubba Cunningham. He has had a last good couple of months. So between North Carolina and the men's hoops team, getting into the tournament, in not so good circumstances. Of course, he ran the tournament selection committee and such, and now this. I mean, oh God, I'm sure he's probably like somewhere like sticking his head in the oven somewhere after that
This
interview.
is the most attention that the school has gotten in a while. So maybe it's a good thing and a bad thing how they're looking at it.
Probably. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I don't see this ending well for Coach Belichick, but again, not my business. So, what do I know?
At least as of right now, he's not Shannon Sharp, but we won't discuss Shannon Sharp here. That's a whole nother issue for a whole nother time.
You want to open up that Pandora box?
Okay, yeah. Let's not.
I said a whole nother show for a whole nother time.
That's a whole nother
mic drop. But speaking of sports media, let's congratulate a friend of the show, LaKeena, Miss Layla Rahimi. She was officially named the University's replacement for the Score Sports Radio 670s. Midday show will be her and Marshall Harris going forward with our guy, Mr. Wonderful, another friend of the show, Mark Brody, who's the Chicago Bears beat reporter for 670 Score. He's going to join the show twice a week. Thoughts, Christine?
I think it's big for Chicago media just because it's a female at the helm running the show, being the main name in front. That hasn't happened in a long time. You have Peggy and Dion. I know that's a different station out with ESPN there being two women co-anchors, but having a sole female host with another male, that doesn't happen too often in Chicago for sports. So it's a big deal.
It is huge. And good news though, Mark said he will find time to come on with us. So he's not
Yay!
Yeah. So he told me that. I congratulated. It's like, you're not gonna play with us anymore. Like, no, I will find time for it with you guys. So that the great news to hear. But yeah. And I think I saw an article that Jeff Agris from Chicago Sun-Times. He said that this is actually big for the Score because it's kind of like you've got a female and then you've got an African American leading the show, and I think this will definitely help the Score. And plus, the Cubs have actually been playing very well, so that will help them with listenership too. So I think things looking up for the Score. So they should be very happy of where they're at right now.
Yeah, they should be, and of course we talked about with the viewership for the NBA, LaKeena. We all know that this is TNT's last run of covering the NBA. They'll say goodbye at the end. This is across the board. Local viewership for the NBA has been down 9%. We all know the situation here in Chicago with the CHSN Xfinity / Comcast mess that's still going on. Bulls viewership was down 63% this year. Christine, thoughts?
I don't think you need to blame it on the television stations necessarily. When it comes to the people watching them, I just don't think with that debate going on right now, they don't have any options to watch games currently because of this whole back and forth situation. So I think when you look at numbers like that, you can't take them literally because you have to consider the circumstances behind them.
Yeah, we talked about it ad nauseam. But yeah, I mean, when you don't have access to to watch the teams, you're not people. The numbers drop. That's just that simple. So yeah, I mean, and look, we talked about it last week about the WGN. There has been no update on that, but hopefully they could get some of those games on GN just so they can help them out a little bit. So not just with them, but with the White Sox and the Blackhawks too. I know Danny Wirtz is not very happy about that on the Blackhawks front. So yeah, they better figure it out.
Yep. We heading down the home stretch with our girl Christine the Queen Manika right here from KXRB, right here on Sports Zone Chicago, Second City Sports. LaKeena here with you. All right, ladies, it's the Kentucky Derby weekend, unless I'm missing something. Christine, do you get into watching horses run around for 2 minutes?
You know, I like seeing the hats and what people are wearing. I've never actually, I mean, I've watched it, but do I get in on it? Not really. I know that the favorite is supposed to be journalism on a 4 winning streak right now, and oh gosh, what is it? The one of the horses, I can't remember the name right now, is Toby Keith's horse, the late Toby Keith's horse. It was his dream to have a horse in the Kentucky Derby with him being a horse stable owner, and now his family is fulfilling that wish. Render Judgment. I just thought of that. The horse's name is Render Judgment. So that's that's a pretty cool little story there. So I'll watch it, but do I know anything about it? Not really.
Yeah, well, needless to say, the Render Judgment is 30-1. So if you want to put some money down, there Rodriguez 12-1. Journalism, I just saw journalism. I think 3-1. So you won't win much money, but I guess on the other favorites is Sovereignty and Sandman. I know there have been a couple of scratches. I know Rodriguez got scratched. I know Grande, he just got scratched. So it's only going to be a 19 horse field. And yeah, I've watched this since I was about like, as long as I can remember. So it's cool. And it's so yeah, I don't watch all like the pomp and circumstance. I just watch like the last like 10 minutes because a lot of it is just like window dressing, mint juleps and people wearing hats and stuff. But also incidentally though, if you for those who are wondering, Xavier Legette, who's the talented corner from Carolina, he's actually going to be the correspondent for the NFL representing them at the
which is funny.
Yeah, Kentucky Derby and the Kentucky Oaks. So he's doing the Oaks right. The Oaks is going to be coming on about an hour from now, about a couple hours from now, down there in Louisville, and he's also going to be doing the Kentucky Derby as well. So that'll help with the social media and stuff. He actually is pretty funny. I've seen a couple of videos already of him riding a horse. So yeah, so check out his social media, NFL social media too, if you guys want to. It'll make it interesting and fun. I actually like they're doing that to kind of like keep the younger people engaged. So that's pretty cool.
Yep. And
I want to see him ride a horse.
There actually is a video of him riding a horse. There actually is a video of him.
Yeah.
Look up on social media, Chrissy. I think I saw there was a video of him riding a horse. One of the
not
horses.
just not like trotting or just like casually walking. I want him to go around the track with it.
I think I think he was in like a nearby one of the stables. I don't know. I saw a video of him yesterday. So try to find that if you can. It's right there on the. Go look up Xavier Legette on a horse. Yeah, it should be right there. But yeah, he's been making the rounds like for the last couple of days. So it should be fun seeing him. He's actually pretty funny. He actually does have a career in media when he does retire years from now. So he's got a great personality. Funny. Yeah, so guys, check him out if you can. Check out his social media and the NFL social media.
Okay. Last question from me, Christine, as we wind this thing down. I believe late last week, training camps opened up for the WNBA. Of course, Paige Beckers was selected by the Dallas Wings. Of course, Haley Van Lith is reunited with Angel Reese here in Chicago. The WNBA's preseason, I believe, will start in a couple of weeks. And, of course, I think the regular season starts at the end of this month. How excited are you, Christine, about the new WNBA season? Let's not forget, Caden Clark will be back for season 2.
It's exciting. Now you have a lot of rivalries coming back together. Now you have Haley and Angel, and they're soon going to be facing Caitlin Clark again. And hopefully Cordova, she can get healthy again, and she can get on on the court and ball out for the Sky. So yeah, it's exciting.
Well, and they actually opened their preseason tonight. I'm talking about the Sky. Do they face up the Brazil national team? So yeah, so they're going to be playing the Camila Cardoso's home country. So that should be fun. That's going to be at 8:00 on Ion. Also preceded by Dallas and Las Vegas. So you get to see Paige Becker's in action already down there in Vegas. So yeah, some of the games are. Of course, they got the Fever. Speaking of the Fever, they start their preseason tomorrow against the Washington Mystics, and that's gonna be on NBA TV. So yeah, some of the games. Of course, they face that same Brazil national team. Talking about the Fever dudes. That's gonna be on Sunday on ESPN at 3:00. So we got a little bit of WNBA or early preseason WNBA action right there for you.
Just a little tease for you, a little tease.
Just a little bit.
Christine, any last minute? Yeah. Any last minute thoughts, Christine, before we close out? Any last minute thoughts so that you want to spill out?
Spill out? No, I'm good.
Well, George.
All right,
yeah,
LaKeena, take us home.
Well, one more thing, George Kittle, San Francisco gave him some fresh paper a couple of days ago, so he got a nice, gonna be up there the highest paid tight ends in the league, so good for him. And look, we'll see if I think San Francisco, I think they made a little adjustments here and there, so maybe we'll see them perhaps contend in the NFC West, but should be interesting though, nonetheless.
Yeah, San Francisco was injured last year. They missed the playoffs. We know Philadelphia won the whole thing, but Philadelphia's still going to be good. But I still get that feeling that the NFC is going to be wide open again for this upcoming year. So you got a lot of contenders out there. We'll see if the Bears could be one of those teams. San Francisco wants to reclaim that crown after, as I said, missing the playoffs last year due to injuries all down their roster.
All right. On that note, you find LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, Executors McGee, and the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sidney Brown, on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80. Christine, where can the lovely people follow you on social media?
They can follow me on Twitter or X at Manika_KXRB.
All right. We get Second City Sports, the replays of our show, Sean and Maya, the Smoke Fellas, What's Up Cuz, and so much more. Catch the replays anytime, anywhere on Sports of Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels.
And you know we will provide.
And of course, we also want to thank Scott Lewis from the Barber's Chair Company Network podcast, and also our girl Christine Mack from KXRB for joining us today. What a great time had by all in this first show of May.
Yes, that's how you kick off the month of May. And don't forget, you can catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say, be sure to catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
All right, folks, enjoy all the sports. You've got pretty much everything. You've got the playoffs, both the NBA and NHL. You've got we got golf. We got the Byron Nelson Invitation, going on, down there in Texas. You've got WNBA basketball if you're into that preseason. We got baseball, of course, and so much more. Just a great time of year for sports fans. I know some soccer too as well. So for Sid and Christine, I'm LaKeena with Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago. We'll see you guys next week.
Let's go, White Sox. Holla!